But he's keeping us guessing, Levon. He's finally back on the board, and we're ready to go.
Here we go.
The English opening. So, OK, again, just like the first game today, we see this position. Will he repeat his strategy, which nearly brought him success, Simon?
Yeah, again, you say he's a man of principle. He often sticks to what he has played earlier on, and he's doing exactly that now. He's going, well, there is a big decision here, and it looks like he's going to go for the same setup, the Reti, that quiet setup, where he got, actually, to be fair, extremely good chances to win. So, I mean, why change? Why change if it's worked already? Why not stick? And where Yi, maybe they've had a chance to look at some improvements, exactly the same as we saw in the first game.
What do you think? Will Wei Yi be the first one to differ, the first one to change up the move order, maybe, because he was suffering?
I think he has to, right? I mean, for sure, Levon has spoken to someone, or he's at least consulted the computer and come up with a small improvement. But at the minute, they're playing exactly the same.
Yep. So in that last game, in this position, White's rook came across, so it's still exactly the same first 10 moves from Aronian. In that game, Black's queen just sidestepped one square, and maybe that was the start of things going wrong, where he moved his queen 3 times in the first 20 so moves in that game, and it did backfire. So, OK, the first new move, instead of using the black queen on the c8 square, the black rook has come to that c8 square. And this is much more logical. This is much more natural, at least. The black queen's still on the central file, so White's rook is peering down at it, but the centre is still temporarily closed.
Do you think we will see one of these type of positions where White looks like they're not really doing too much? They kind of move the d pawn 1 square forward, and then they just huddle, and then they strike. They expand as much as they can on the right.
Crawly kind of chess.
Yes.
Just step 1 square, wait, step another square.
Yes.
That strategy is not really Levon's style, I guess. We saw him in the first game of the day when he had White. He went for the centre. You called him Mr. Centre last season, Jovanka. So I do expect him to occupy the centre with pawns. But no, he does go for that slower option. Interesting stuff. And Wei Yi's clearly prepared for this game. He's clearly looked at it in the break. This last rook move, you don't play it immediately without having studied the position. The whole idea of Black's last rook move down to the 7th rank is the black queen can actually slide into the corner at some point, where she does sit on a surprisingly good diagonal. OK, Levon, meanwhile, comes out with a white knight. And Wei Yi looked off to the left with his eyes briefly. It means he's trying to remember something.
You mentioned maybe he's talked to someone before this game. Do we know anything about who Levon is working with?
Levon? That's a good question. I don't really know these days.
You have mentioned Lenya Dominguez. Sometimes they do live close to each other in the US. Yeah, Fabiano.
Quite possibly. He's worked with those guys, maybe even ahead of the Olympiad. Some of the American players, they got together, maybe a training camp there. I know he used to work with several Armenian players, often the younger generation, who would kind of give him energetic ideas and fresh ideas. He loves, as we saw in his tweets, he loves kind of picking the brains of the new generation. Who work a lot on chess, but yeah, I don't know these days. Levon, I think maybe a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting developments in the game, because I was thinking, okay, well, the game is going to go into the long haul. You know, White is going to creep forward. Black is also going to do some funny maneuverings. But Wei Yi's like, no, he pushes forward with this pawn, which is also very thematic. But funnily enough, no one has ever played this pawn move.
Oh.
He's studied it. He's prepared this novelty. Look at his clock time. When he's been surprised in the past, Wei Yi stops to think. Now he's up on 16 minutes, gain time. He's clearly studied this novelty before. He's playing instantly every move. The white knight came forward, attacking the black rook. We see a bunch of exchanges now. And it's still level material. But Wei Yi, he's trying to intimidate Levon. He's trying to bully him with all these quick moves. He's actually giving up a pawn, Wei Yi. Black's central pawn, the d4 pawn, can just be captured. What's the idea there for Wei Yi?
Can it be captured? I mean, you capture with the knight, do you, I guess? Because if you take with the bishop, then I can just nudge your knight away. So you have to take with the knight and...
just to show this.
Yeah.
This would not end well for White. 2 pieces attacked, so you have to capture with the knight instead.
And then I guess Black has some energetic moves attacking the... Oh, hello. Oh,
You have to be careful.
I nearly. We've got to show this idea.
You played this one.
I nearly played that one without thinking, but it might be possible. But can we just show Queen takes pawn?
Queen takes pawn, check.
Very quickly. King takes, and then Knight F5, double check, and then
Unfortunately, the black king can go back. It looks like you're about to deliver checkmate.
Yeah.
It looks like the king is trapped, but the black knight does guard this square.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
so it doesn't quite work. And has he actually taken it in the game? He has. So knight G4, that knight jump is critical. And if Wei Yi has prepared this, then surely he must have looked at taking the pawn.
Yeah.
Because you're playing so quickly, you've got to look at your opponent's most critical move, unless the computer says it's losing, and he has played it. Yeah. Wow. What's happening here? I mean, this is going to be good for someone, really good for someone.
Evaluation bar thinks it's very good for black. And in the current position, as we showed, Levon Aronian can't sacrifice his queen. You can even jump forward with this check, for example, a double check, hitting the bishop, hitting the king with the bishop and knight. But when the king moves, unfortunately, you can take the black queen, but it's not enough. Black emerges with an extra knight for 3 pawns, but the knight will become the dominant factor. And in the current position, where else to put the queen for Levon Aronian? If he retreats to this square, hitting the knight, then rook takes knight is just a winning move. Simply, in this position, the knight and bishop are far superior to white's rook in return. So black has 2 pieces for the rook and will be winning. Where else do you put the queen? I'm struggling here. If you move to this square, there will be consequences. At the very least, black could support this knight and push forward with a double attack next move. I'm also wondering, for example, if the queen goes to this square, or especially if it goes to the square next to its own knight to continue protecting, then what about this one? Knight takes pawn and a pin along this diagonal. Black will win the knight back with interest. Level pawns, but white's king will be very, very open.
And I wondered whether there was any funky moves as well. So, you know, the position is so strange. I mean,
the current position?
No, I think this one is really good for black, the current position. But if you look at the game position, then I just wondered whether there was anything strange, like knight takes pawn.
Wow, knight takes pawn, counter-attacking, so the queen was under attack, but now we're hitting the black queen. I guess the idea is that after the knight captures and... what do we play now? This knight is attacked, this knight is attacked. White is 2 pawns up temporarily. That's interesting. Yeah, what to do?
But maybe the white knight, while sitting pretty, is probably trapped, right?
It's trapped right now, so maybe we can defend the black knight.
Yeah.
Temporarily, we defend the knight. We threaten maybe a knight check, jumping out the way when there'll be tension between the bishops. So after a trade here, white's knight has to save itself, and at the very end, this rook drops.
I think Aronian's just been tricked. Yeah. I think simply he's kept up with his same strategy and moving very quickly, but it's been a really silly decision in this, because it's clear that Wei Yi has prepared this, and the move that kind of shocked me was this knight takes pawn in the middle and the speed he played it, because it's one of those moves which is probably either winning or losing. It's nothing in the middle ground, because you're either winning a pawn or you're falling into some trap that Wei Yi has now launched. So I'm just amazed that Lev actually played that so quickly. You know, I mean, he's done this throughout, but in there's critical moments, and you must be aware of what your opponent's trying to do. And I mean, with that clever bishop f6 move that you showed there, David, and I'm just feeling that Wei Yi's prepared this, so it must be good as well. Yeah. It's just simple psychology. Otherwise, he wouldn't be moving so quickly. Yeah. And is it a case that Lev's in serious trouble now?
I think he is absolutely in trouble. And
I love this selfie. What's this? What, do I like it? Oh, wow. What's
this? Well, I was also, this kind of decision by Levon really reminds me of that phrase that we use when you get married really quickly. Marry in haste, repent at leisure. And so when whilst Levon is just thinking about what to do, his position is bad. Well, we see some selfies. I'd also like to share with you some selfies. And one is from Carlos Madurga, who sends us greetings from Catalonia. Oh. And there you will see there's a cat watching our show. We are big fans of pets here.
Yep.
And Kirk also sends us our best wishes. And he says, we make a great team. So thank you, Kirk. And we hope you're enjoying watching the show. And Cosmon tells us that today was tournament day. But they were lucky enough to make a quick win and come back home to watch Levon against Wei. That's what we like to see. It's like a win-win scenario, you know? Good game of chess, watching some fantastic players, battle it out against each other. And if you two want to share with us your selfies or send us your thoughts, your questions, then please tweet us using the hashtag ChessChamps. And don't forget, we have a Crypto Cup challenge where we're asking you to guess to name 30, or as many grandmasters as you can within 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's a cool challenge.
That is a very cool challenge. I think I might try it.
Yeah. And you can, this challenge will be going on for the entire FTX Summer of Chess, with also the major coming up in August, FTX Crypto Cup. So you can practice and do it again and again. Now, Levon Aronian is the one thinking in this game. And I guess it was Wei Yi you were talking about, actually, David, that has been talking to someone, has a great preparation in this game.
Clearly, and there we go. The preparation continues. We're at move 21. Wei Yi's barely pausing for thought. He's just given up the Black Knight, and we showed this variation earlier. Black's bishop pins the White Knight, and Levon Aronian, he is walking into the lion's den.
Wow.
Look at the White King. What is it doing in the middle of the board?
It doesn't even help, right?
Wow.
I mean, yes, it's bad news when the king is a defender of a piece, and there's still 4 rooks and 2 queens on the board. I mean, the first move that kind of comes to mind is just just attack the knight with a pawn.
Yeah. There's several tempting moves in this position, but this can't end well for White simply with this king in the centre. So sufficiently protected right now is the knight. Defended 3 times, attacked only 3 times as well. But yeah, as you guys said, push this pawn. The whole idea is that if the queen takes the pawn, we slide across with either rook, to be honest. And this is a skewer. You win the white queen. You pin and you win here. But what's his idea if the black pawn steps forward? Is he just going to run with his king this way? That's the only justification I can make for the white king coming out into the centre. You don't want to kind of run away with your tail between your legs back to the king side. There's actually less pawn protection on that flank. Maybe his idea is to drop back with the king, and after a set of exchanges, actually maybe here he wants to hide with his king. Is the king safer on this flank? Oof, I mean, it's so ugly, this position. Black can gain a bunch of time against the white queen by pushing forward. Black can move his queen out the way, for example, somewhere, start lining up his 2 rooks against this white backward pawn on d3.
Yeah.
Just looks like one-way traffic right now, level number of pawns, but in the current position, if we go back, does Wei Yi have something stronger than this pawn push? That is the big question. Because right now, White's king, bishop and queen are all tied down to the defense of this knight. Maybe you don't even need to attack it yet. Maybe you can move the white queen out, the black queen out the way somewhere. Maybe you can, I don't know, push a pawn, move this rook across, prepare this idea.
Yeah.
So many options.
Looks good.
Just wait and do nothing. I mean, what does White play if you just push a pawn forward and laugh? Just say, OK, I don't even need to win my piece back.
That's a mean girl move there, David. It's brutal.
Yeah, this is coming next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange because, I mean, obviously Lev's fallen into something pretty horrible here, but the advantage is not a material advantage. I think it's worth pointing out. But when that knight is captured in the middle, which it will be equal on points, but it's a positional advantage. And the positional advantage is, if you look at Black's rook and queen in the middle of the board, they're just fantastically pointing down that row. Look at the white king. The white king is naked. You know, it's lost its clothes. It's feeling a bit cold. Black's king, super safe, and there's all these little things, and at this level, you kind of think these things are really enough to win the game.
But how about if he moves his rook behind his queen? Would they be better?
The white rook?
Then? The white rook, yes.
Yeah, I guess at some point. The problem for White is that this pawn can easily be defended in the centre for Black. For example, if Black just makes a move, say we push a pawn, here, this pawn can be easily defended, so it's actually a strong point. If you compare it to White's backward pawn, this pawn is completely blockaded, not that easy to defend long term. black would love to initiate what we call Alakind's gun and just kind of zigzag his rook to this square, and then all 3 pieces, the ammunition, all facing down on this pawn. It's going to be weak forever. And yeah, meanwhile, black has more space. Black has the safer king, as Simon mentioned. Also, black does have ways to attack this king. He could throw this pawn forward later, open things up.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
And if we do get that Alakind's gun, Simon, is that when we start singing, "Welcome to the..."
danger zone.
Do you know, that was
We can-
voted #1 cheesiest song.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, to be honest. I haven't even seen the new Top Gun film. Has anyone seen it?
No,
yet?
I actually haven't, but it's on my list.
Definitely on my list
Yeah.
when it
Heard
comes.
good things from our dear friend Askil.
Yeah.
Said it was a great movie.
Yeah, got to see it. So, but yeah, this is also a very good move played, and it just looks like black's got an ideal position. It's just king safety as well, isn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, look at the white king. The white king is just looking ridiculous.
Totally.
That ain't no maverick king there. No, that's more of a goose. A goose king there in the middle. Can't even remember the characters in the first one. But
Who's the Iceman out of these two?
the Iceman is he's cool. He's cool. Val Kilmer. He's it must be the Black Bishop.
Yeah.
The Black Bishop must be the Iceman.
Well, which of these 2 players, Wei Yi or Aronian?
The players. That's a good point, actually.
Who's the Maverick? Who's the Iceman? Who's...
Well, I would say Aronian's the more experienced. He's like the Iceman, and the youngster has to be the Maverick, right? The sort of young upshot, come along, trying to stir the pot a little bit with his fantastic. But Maverick was a bit outside the box, wasn't he? So I don't know. Oh. So not really either of them a Maverick, really, to be honest. The more I think about it. But
When you guys say Iceman, because obviously I've never seen Top Gun, because I just haven't. But when you say that, I think of the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic, Running Man.
Running Man's very good as well. Yeah,
it's a
classic film.
That's a great film. Yeah. And here I was wondering, in this type of position, I mean, is there any chance for white? I mean, like in general things, it looks so unpleasant.
So maybe we can jump in and try and find a move for white.
Yeah.
It's Jovanka calls it so unpleasant, and again, it's just this pin. How do we break the pin?
Maybe you have to move the king, David, don't you? I mean, just at some point, surely.
Scuttle away, right?
Yeah.
Then we drop this knight anyway. At least now you can hide on this square. And it's similar to that variation we showed. The main difference, though, is that this black pawn is actually on a pretty safe square. Maybe it's actually good for Wei Yi that he hasn't committed this pawn. If you push it forward, it can be a bit weak, it can be a target. Here, it's easier for black to start creeping in, maybe using his queen along this line. It just looks really, really scary for white. He has run away, indeed, with his king. And actually, instead of moving his king across, where there would have been this direct tactic of a nasty check, we saw a capture instead. And here, after a capture, white's queen simply drops back. But it's all about creating the Alekhine gun now. I would love to see Wei Yi just lift his rook up 1 square. And if he does so, then how is white going to react? I mean, the king can move, the black rook's sliding across. We call this Alekhine's gun because it's the 3 heavy pieces stacked up together. It's like when you pull the trigger, eventually one of these pieces will win this pawn. You can't right now, but you will maybe break through and win this pawn. But yeah, this Alekhine's gun is just so powerful. All the heavy pieces. I can imagine a situation where, as well, the black queen is freed up because the rooks protect each other. She can start jumping into the position somehow from this angle. Black's pawns can start pushing forward and trying to open things up.
So was it Alekhine then who invented this Alekhine's gun, or was he just famous for using it?
He was famous for using it, right? I mean, he had two games where he got this configuration of rook, and queen. So they named it after the games that he had in this position. So,
Yeah. I'm sure it had been done before, many things in chess, but of course.
Not like he's suddenly like, oh, having 2 rooks and a queen in the same line, that must be a good idea in chess.
I mean, here, Levon Aronian wishes there was better gun control because this just looks really, really deadly. And, OK, he doesn't go for this. I'm really surprised. I mean, this was so tempting for me. Instead of putting all the pieces on the d-file, I mean, you could have done it this way as well, with the queen kind of sandwiched in between the rooks. Normally, you want the queen behind, because she's the most valuable. She's kind of propelling the gun forward. But instead of this, he just pushes in the centre. And white's king sidesteps. What is the idea now?
Still a very nice position. I mean, white is purely passive here. White can't really do anything, and I think he's going to do sort of what is this? It's not quite Alekhine's gun. Is this like, I don't know, Trevor's gun or something?
It's like
Because the order has to be queen behind.
Yeah, queen behind,
normally.
2 rooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it still looks very strong, as Simon says. I mean, you're threatening to come in this way, maybe. You're also possibly lining up this diagonal against the White King. It's all gone wrong for Aronian level material, but it's the quality of the pieces, all in Black's favour. The pawn structure, all in Black's favour. Very least, you could start marching this pawn down the board and start pushing again. But Kaya, you called this earlier, actually.
Yay.
The White Rook lining up behind the White Queen, you predicted it. This had to be done in order to improve this rook later. This rook's sad, sitting in the corner. It wants to swing across and defend.
But the bar just goes further up for Wei Yi. This is game 3. He has the black pieces. But do you guys think he will take the lead in this first match?
It looks very likely.
Wow.
I mean, if Wei Yi doesn't win this, then he'll start questioning himself. He'll think, if I can't win this, I can't win anything. Because it's strategic domination right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know, somehow Wei Yi doesn't look like the kind of player who would collapse after a bad game. He kind of looks like he could just take a sip of tea and get on with it. But some players do have this great power of recovery. Others, you just know that that's it.
Yeah.
They're going to collapse. And
Famous tilt.
yeah.
Well, he still has almost 11 minutes on the clock. You guys were praising his preparation in this game. So do we know anything about who he's working with? Is it the Chinese team working together?
Yeah, I think it's other Chinese players. I know he has worked with Ding Liren in the past. I'm not sure whether he worked with him recently ahead of the candidates, for example. Of course, they had this famous match when Ding was trying to qualify for the candidates. He had to play a whole bunch of games, and I think 10 of those 28 games they were against Wei Yi.
Wow.
So a sparring partner at the very least, but which is a pretty good sparring partner, the world number 2. But yeah, either way, Wei Yi, he definitely works with some of the top players.
And maybe
China.
he helped Ding in the candidates, of course, as one of his seconds. And we know, right, that players who have been seconds, especially for big tournaments like candidates or world championship matches, they often do thrive after helping those players.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Magnus helped to second for Anand, and then later on he took the title from Anand. We saw Magnus when he defended the title in 2018, and Daniel Dubov had just been working with him. Suddenly Daniel Dubov went and won the World Rapping Championship.
Yeah.
So working with strong players, I mean, it's never a bad thing. You learn a lot.
And that actually happened to one of my friends. She employed a grandmaster, and together they worked on an opening repertoire and novelties to help her in the Women's World Championship. She didn't get any of them, but he did. He got in every single one of the novelties and the ideas that they'd hatched up, and he won literally every single open that he played.
Wow.
And so she said, next time, you pay me.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So she paid him.
Yeah.
And he... That's a great job. All right. Well, now he's thinking, though, Wei Yi, thinking hard in this game. He must sense that this is the game he could win. This is the first match in the final. Tomorrow will be the other match.
Yeah,
So everything can still happen.
The pitfall for Wei Yi is to think too long, first of all, but also there's too many tempting moves. You can pretty much do anything here as Black. I can only see one move which blunders, or a couple of moves which blunder and would ruin the position. For example, if we jump in, you have to keep defending your rook. If you jump in with the queen to this square, for example, then whoops, you are actually pinned on the central file. So White's queen can capture one rook, and suddenly this is disaster on the back rank. So you have to be slightly careful there. With that in mind, in the current position, I would love to maybe just create some space, some breathing space for the Black King. If you want to sit, there's no current threat, so you could just push this pawn. You could just maybe push this pawn forward. White will never, ever capture you, because suddenly the White King will be open along the c-file. So, yeah, just too much choice. Maybe that's the problem. And do you think Wei Yi should just take a timeout, just push a pawn, just create some luft for the king? Should he support this pawn to free up the Black Rook, maybe?
Yeah,
so much choice.
I think he should just play some natural moves, like you say. I mean, it's quite a simple position, really. Yeah. There's not really any danger, unless you blunder. Yeah. But you can nearly play any move on the board and be better. If I was black, I'd just be looking at ways to improve my position. So, like, I like the one supporting the pawn in the middle, and just move your pieces to better squares and do that. It just, all the ideas you said. Yeah. But just playing quickly. There's no reason really to mess around here because there's not anything to calculate at the moment. So it's peculiar that he's now gone lower than Aronian on time. I mean,
there's
it's
like
strange.
no forcing variations, and he spent 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's not calculation here that's the name of the game. I mean, he's looking up, drinking tea. What is he thinking about? He should just be getting on with it, pushing pawns, or like you said, Simon, just calmly manoeuvring. But
the only thing he can be thinking of is this pawn push, I guess, which you mentioned.
Okay.
Trying to do the damage immediately.
Maybe this side.
Yeah, I mean, this is the only one where you might calculate because it gets a bit complicated. Any other move is not really complicated, so why bother spending time on it, I'd say.
Unless it's this one.
Yeah, that one as
possibly.
well. Yeah, I just don't think that works, but it's maybe...
Stack up on the D-file maybe now. Try and break in here, but white will just defend against that.
I mean, it's still very dangerous. I'd still rather be black there, definitely.
Oh, he's going for it.
Wow.
Almost 6 minutes.
Yeah, so he does push this pawn. He's going for glory immediately. He didn't need to. This is, again, difference of generations. I think we would have just solidified things, slowly built up the position, but he goes for it immediately.
But if it works, I guess. So maybe now it's understandable why he fought so long, because you need to calculate this one carefully.
And even if it's not the best move, it looks good enough to maintain a big advantage, and it does ask Levon Aronian, who's also short on time, it asks him some big questions. And first question is, can you leave this pawn? The answer is not really. It's attacked by black's pawn, black's rook. You have to really capture. And second question, once that happens, is how do you stop the infiltration of black's rook to the second rank? That would be deadly if black hits one more move and gives a check. Yeah, if you stop it with your rook. The problem is you can't challenge rooks right now. Bringing the rook across, black actually covers this square 3 times, so black would win a piece. But yeah, if you stop it this way, suddenly the white queen gets hit. If the white queen moves, for example, then the black queen is coming in. Oof, this looks awfully strong.
That's a disaster for white.
Yeah. I mean, the king is not going to survive this.
No, absolutely not.
How's he going to survive in general? Maybe in this position, can he just move his rook, try to pretend he castled on this side of the board?
It's a start, right?
It's a check. I mean, it looks like checkmate somehow.
Maybe the queen just comes in.
But maybe you can be clever about it, and yeah, that looks great.
Yeah, I mean, it's still not the end of the world after white moves the rook forward. It looks scary.
Yeah.
This is surely winning, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, surely. Whoa. Yeah, it's not.
I mean, I'm clutching at straws trying to defend this one.
But maybe, yeah.
But here I feel like you do have to be concrete as well with the attack. So I do think pawn.
How about this one? Moving the rook. I'm hoping that after pawn takes pawn, I can play queen takes pawn.
Yeah.
So that was a check, and now I'm trying to get through to your back rank. This looks... I mean, I'm just trying to think now, getting into the mind of Levon Aronian in this current position. Either you play pawn takes pawn and you do or die along the d-file, you have to protect against this, or you need something genius.
Can you try to get the queens off? I mean, black's queen is terrifying. What if you...
Move the queen?
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then you have to answer this check.
Then
You just
run.
forward.
Yeah, at least this what. Yeah. Oh, I didn't even see it as check. That sounds quite lucky, but maybe it's all right. Yeah. I'm still actually. Yeah. Well, hello.
Happy
It looks like
accident.
it looks like you're losing the queen, but no, you're getting through. To
Happy little accident.
back rank.
And maybe white's all right there. Somehow fluked it. Maybe.
Maybe you need this type of luck in the position. Okay, so we're thinking that currently Levon Aronian should not play pawn takes pawn. Otherwise, he might be in big trouble. Maybe he needs a clever move, offering a queen trade, or just swinging his rook across and hoping for the best.
Your rook d1 looks very interesting as well. It looks kind of, but it's...
Actually,
Okay.
I just checked the computer. There are just 2 ways to save this. And first, top choice is Simon's move, or that fancy queen move. Second choice is actually to slide the rook to d1 square. Those are the only 2. Everything else gives like a completely winning advantage.
They are both findable for Levon.
We found them, but with a bit of luck, just by process of elimination, we looked at the most obvious move, pawn takes pawn. It looks like white was losing there. So then we look for alternatives. If you can't play pawn takes pawn, this pawn is attacked. That's how I stumbled across this move, although calculation is needed. And Simon just thought, OK, we can't play pawn takes pawn, we need the queens off. So he found maybe the best move in the position. But
I found the move, but then I realised I lost my queen, so it was like...
But it works.
Happy little accident.
You make your own luck. So will he find this queen move or this rook move? If not, Levon can almost resign.
Wow.
3 minutes on the clock. He has to find queen f4 or bring his rook across to d1.
Ooh, OK. We just need to look at the board right now. Will he find one of those two moves? He has been thinking for a long time, so I guess process of elimination.
That's at that point. The one thing I noticed with... OK, he does find the best
it.
moves.
Wow.
I was literally about to say, the one thing with top players is if you give them a small kind of selection, if they know that everything is losing, they figure it out, nearly always they find the best move, or they find the path to survival. They use that process of elimination by calculating, and yeah, he finds a great move.
Incredible. Yeah, I mean... Yeah. I mean, I guess black must still be a lot better here, but at least now black has the decision about what to play, right?
Queens can't come off for black. If the queens come off, white is probably fine.
Doing all right, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, maybe... I guess so, yeah. It's the back rank, which is a real problem for black in a lot of these variations, right? So
exactly. Black's king would love to have a breathing space, a breathing square. Black's queen needs to move, I think. As we saw, pawn takes pawn is a check, hitting the white king, but the white king just steps up one square. And because of the tension on the e-file with the rooks, black is not actually doing as well as it looks like.
Yeah. Probably the best move is for the queen just to go to the edge of the board. Just the A3, A3.
Yeah. So,
and then just to stop the white rook joining in the action.
But then you've got to worry about rook takes pawn, haven't you?
Oh, God.
I mean,
see that.
I don't know. I mean, you have to at least calculate. Maybe black's still doing OK there, but...
I mean, for example, now, if this rook captures, which it would love to, then white does have a queen check.
Yeah.
This isn't checkmate because black's queen can come back and defend, but this is what we're talking about. If the queens disappear, suddenly white is completely fine. If anyone's better, it's white with queens off the board because white's king is suddenly active. It's a target while queens remain, but if the queens disappear, it's a great piece in the endgame. So, yeah, just to show the other variation as well, after pawn takes pawn check, hitting the king steps forward. The problem for black is no time to take the queen. If you take the queen, then this, again, check. The queen drops back, more trades, and at the very end, actually, white wins with an extra rook. So, yeah, I mean, in this position, there's so much action happening. Black, for example, can play rook takes rook, but firstly, white can just recapture. Secondly, the question is maybe just queen takes queen. Again, we see an endgame, white is temporarily a pawn down, but he threatens checkmate, and when that is stopped, white can simply come and pick up this pawn.
Again, it's one of those cases where Wei Yi played this move, very sharp move, so he's entering into complications, but maybe it's a very good move, and maybe it's the computer's top choice, this pawn push, but I think nearly anyone of my generation, at least, who's not, you know, trained with a computer would have just played something very quickly, kept the pressure on, and I think that's the more practical way to play because you give your opponent more chance to go wrong. When you play like this, you're forcing them to find a move that Aronian played. You're giving them more opportunity to play the right moves. I think it's more practical to just keep the position unless you've got a real knockout. Maybe he thought that move was knockout. I guess that's the thing, but it's still easy in hindsight to say. I mean, I expect black must be better, and he's come over. This logical move as well.
Yep.
This is a nice move. This.
Yeah.
After my last foray with the queen, I was like, oh, this
Bard does not like it.
Yeah, it feels wrong for black, I've got to say. It crossed my mind as well, but if suddenly this rook is unprotected, this rook is unprotected, is there a way to somehow take advantage of this? For example, at the very least, I was going to say the rook coming across. I'm not 100% sure about that. Is this a threat? That's the problem. Is black threatening to play pawn takes pawn with a check? He wasn't threatening it on the last move. Maybe he's threatening it now. The one thing white shouldn't do, of course, is play pawn takes pawn himself, because after a rook trade here, black will win with a discover check. For example, if white tries to checkmate, there's a really nice block. Black can retreat, No checkmate for white, because actually white is the one under check first, and the queen drops off next move. Instead, Levon found a better try. He moved his rook across. And evaluation bar going back in black's favour after a check now. At least the white king steps forward. What is the idea here for black? You've got to be really careful. Rook takes rook. Suddenly, whoops, again, checkmate coming. So many traps suddenly in the position.
It's very complicated.
And in light of all those back rank mate ideas, maybe you can just take a timeout, give the king some air. After all, white isn't really going to be capturing the pawn because he's not ready.
Yeah, this is a very good choice, I think, here, Jovanka. I'm slightly worried if white steps the king forward, that we'll hit the rook and lose a pawn. But
I think you can move your rook.
This rook coming over.
So, yeah.
Maybe it's just enough for black to keep the advantage. Yeah, so, I mean, practical terms, just move the pawn, don't get checkmated on the back rank.
Yeah.
And keep the game going.
And look at
tension.
And the time. I love it when they get to this stage of the time, because I have to admit, like, they go through the stages, they have their long thinks, and then suddenly they get to like 2.5 minutes, and it's like, OK, wakey time.
Yeah.
We're going to get the action now. It's coming. And there's loads of just little tricks here, aren't there? Loads of little tricks for both sides. And I'm thinking, even though the bar's over at Wei Yi's side, that it's not as good as it should be. OK, so he's now done this move, and that allows Aronian at least to try and survive at an ending, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
take that rook off the board, move the white king. And
I just don't like the way he's done this, I have to say. But a really good defensive play from Aronian.
You don't like Wei or the way he's done it?
I quite like the way, and I like Wei Yi.
And
sneaky trap there from Levon.
yeah, exactly. Black should not be tempted to capture the rook because of the back rank checkmating motifs that David's highlighted earlier.
Can I just mention one thing?
Yeah.
Because this is so tense, right? These players, they're fighting for the winner takes home $25,000, top players in the world. And there Levon Aronian is sitting in his home with his vacuum cleaner in the background.
Is that a vacuum cleaner?
I think that is a vacuum cleaner.
Oh, wow. It's actually good to know that he does his own cleaning. I guess he does.
Good job, Levon.
A man like Aronian, you'd assume he has a team of cleaners, really, to clean for him.
Anyways, I just noticed that. Drama on the board with a vacuum cleaner in the background.
Has that vacuum cleaner always been there? And we haven't seen it?
No, because he's been sort of he's been leaning that way, Levon.
Yeah.
So I don't think the camera has seen it.
Maybe he's trying to send kind of subliminal messages to Wei Yi. He's trying to say, OK, this game's not gone well for me. Let's get the vacuum cleaner out, hoover off all the rooks, the queens, the pawns, and make a draw. But yeah, this game, white is still a pawn down, so it's Aronian defending. But I mean, there are some clever moves you can try here.
Yeah, queen coming over,
Yeah.
Looks very, very natural.
We're expecting white's queen to actually slide across 2 squares to the D file, trying to tempt black to take it. Black's rook is stuck on the back rank, remember, stopping all those nasty checkmates.
I reckon that Wei Yi might have missed that. Just in his calculation, I think he probably realises it now. But it's not necessarily the most natural move to see. I mean, maybe you calculate those aggressive moves, the queen jumping forward, attacking the rook. You say, OK, I've got that one covered. But cheeky moves like this.
Does anyone want to have a little bet? I just feel the way this is going, and I didn't even mean to say that, but the way...
With emphasis.
Let me just say that again. This is going, that Aronian will win this game.
You think?
Not really. I just fancy a bet. So,
I'll take that bet. I'll take
I think it will be a draw.
OK. So,
Ooh.
well, David, would you like to have a beer on that one?
I'll say Wei Yi will still win then. Let's have a beer on it.
OK.
I'm saying Levon winning and Jovanka saying a draw.
Yeah.
OK, so I'm going to go for a Lev. All right, so, yeah, let's do it, yeah?
Yeah, OK.
OK, all right. Someone's getting paid.
OK, this is getting interesting now.
Good.
And in Norway, that's a significant bet.
That's
It really is.
Exactly. Yeah.
OK, Levon Aronian thinking
20 seconds.
he needs to do something. Black still has this extra pawn, the D pawn. How is he going to fend off or regain that pawn? He needs to get the queens off the board. That's Levon's #1 priority. If he can get the queens off the board, he is safe. Even if pawn down, because white's king is so good and black's pawn won't survive. He does move his queen across. Wei Yi's idea was to defend it with his
Okay, bang, bang, bang. The moves are coming quick.
There's a check. Black's queen could slide the whole way across with a check.
Oh, hello.
Yes.
Forcing the white king back. This gets really messy.
Oh.
And
You have to give this check as black. Black's queen is under threat. The black rook, remember, cannot move. It cannot come and capture the white queen because of the white rook going to e8, the top rank, and checkmating black.
And then you're going to be sneaky, okay?
Check.
And
It's played out.
king has to step back.
And
And are you going to be sneaky and just like move the b pawn forward?
Well, you can get a draw here if he's heard about the bet and he's like, I want to get your rank of that beer. I'll just move the queen to and fro to secure the draw. A draw?
Yeah.
Draw.
Black's queen can come in, as you mentioned, Simon, to the d2 square with a check. White's king has to go back to the edge of the board, and then you can just move the black rook, maybe. Is that an idea? Therefore, you keep your pawn alive. You keep the black d3 pawn alive. This is a
gone.
check. White's king had to go up the board. If it went back, then the white rook would have fallen with a check.
And now he's just moving the rook
Somewhere safe.
somewhere safe, yeah.
Tuck the rook next to the black king.
Yeah.
Pretend you've just castled.
Yeah.
Everything protected.
Then rook e3, then you...
Maybe you're alive.
Oh, maybe.
The white king might well have to start stepping up the board
Yeah,
soon.
it's going to have to. And look at the time. It's so exciting. They're both under a minute now, and Aronian's king has walked from one side of the board to the other, the walk of death, but he's holding on with these like crazy little tactics at the
Okay.
I was
moment.
going to say where he's definitely going to repeat the position once.
of
We've
course.
seen that from him.
Of course.
I mean, yesterday against Rapport, he repeated the position so many times and then played for the win. So second time we've seen this position, we're expecting Black's rook to move, just to guard any back rank checkmates.
But he really should play for a win now. I mean, but he's also, I'm thinking from a psychological point of view, he's going to be a bit annoyed because he realises he had an easy win somewhere, and now he's like, I've got to calculate this. Why am I not winning? And that's why I'm kind of betting on Aronian. I think this does affect you, even if you are the Iceman, the way of the Iceman.
The way of the Iceman.
The way of the Iceman.
Okay, well, he hasn't too much time. He's now ticking to 10 seconds. And he does move his rook, and not to a particularly safe square.
Ooh, and Levon.
Okay.
Look at him.
Yeah, you can see, like, he's pounced. He knows this is his moment. This is his time to defend. But again, he doesn't have too much time either.
No.
40 seconds. I mean, for me, I think I would probably just move my queen.
Well, what about moving the rook? I like the idea of moving the rook. I mean, to stop that check, maybe, right in the centre of the board, and I can try to get it by... Try to win your pawn, get it to an ending. So I'm thinking move it up. How many squares? 1, 2, like 4 squares.
E5.
E5, yeah. That's or maybe E3, rook E3 as well is the same idea, isn't it?
14
Going
seconds.
for the black pawn makes a lot of sense. Aronian, he has to move the rook.
He goes for
E3,
it, but I don't know. I felt that this was a bit too...
It's very logical as well, though.
Yeah, but it allows the rook to live on the C8 square.
Oh,
and
it was a blunder. Okay, where he repeats the position once. Where is the win for black?
make a hole for the... No, you can't. There is no... Maybe you can push the pawn forward.
Can you?
Yes, you can push the pawn forward, the B pawn forward.
Okay, and after white's rook takes the black
Then you
pawn.
give a check. And then I'm hoping that there's going to be more checks and the rook gets involved.
Still a bit
And it's
unclear,
happy
right?
times.
But it's,
Okay,
it's just guessing at this point, though.
That is true.
Yeah.
10 seconds left for Wei Yi.
Wow.
He made a move.
Oh,
Look at the bar, it's alive.
He's missed it.
I mean, I don't want
didn't see it there.
to cheer for one side, but come on, Aronian. Come on. Get in there, son. So,
Evaluation bar's back on black's side, though. Retreating the queen. Look how open the white king is. This is the problem. And, OK, a big threat on the board. Black's queen wanted to take the white A pawn. Levon steps back.
nice and calm.
Yeah. The key thing is that if black's pawn steps forward, the D pawn, white's rook will slide behind it to stop. And, OK...
Is he going to take the draw? The
No.
draw? He can't take the draw. But, I mean, he's got to find something. If you don't find something, you probably take the draw. And he's only got 10 seconds.
Oh. Where is the win? The
5
bar is saying this is
4
winning for Wei
seconds,
Yi.
2 seconds. OK,
All
he
he's got to do
takes
is lose
time
some time.
out.
Wow,
But
3 seconds.
Wow.
But maybe this is not enough
OK,
now.
but now, you know,
Wow.
now if we get the queens off, we're better.
If
So,
white gets the queens off, you're winning.
yeah.
White's king is just going to run forward.
So
but
good. So you just need to get the queens off.
is the king going to survive while the queens are on? That's a big question. First, just take that black pawn off the
Yeah.
board. I don't care how, just take it.
Yeah,
That
just
black
get
pawn
rid
is
of
too
it.
dangerous.
Probably with the rook feels more natural, doesn't
Yeah.
it? But
Yeah, somehow it feels like the White King shouldn't survive.
Be interesting to see what the win was. Maybe it was your move, Jovanka, that rather, they didn't have enough time to calculate, but something like b5 felt like the right option.
It was. It was
b5.
my b5 move.
Oh, really? Right, OK.
But it's not
Nicely
about
done.
one move, it's about the sequence. He clearly spotted that, but what is the winning idea behind that? We'll go back later. We'll try and investigate where you could have won.
Doesn't take the pawn.
Doesn't take the pawn.
Wow, I'd have grabbed that one. I mean, it's so dangerous, and he's moved in, and maybe he's thinking of some perpetual... Whoa, what is this?
Whoa, Wei Yi has sacrificed his rook.
Oh, is it a draw?
Guys...
It's not a draw yet.
It's not a draw?
Yet. You can...
Is he not going to just repeat?
No, because he can take the rook. And isn't black just... I don't know why black's not just winning here.
Then it's a draw if you take the white rook. White has a perpetual check.
Oh, does he?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you ever take the white rook, we will show this, then the game will be a draw. So it does...
Yes, Jovanka looking very clever here at the moment.
He's about to win a few drinks. Because Wei Yi, he's given up his rook, so he needs something now, but there's nothing more than a draw. Look at Wei Yi. Suddenly he's sunk down in his chair. He's blown it.
Is there any way Levon can win this? Or is it simply a draw?
White can win if black doesn't take the draw. Okay. Black has to take the draw. Keep repeating, don't let white's king out, because simply white's a rook up. And I think we might well see the rook being captured. OK, no, the position continues to repeat. White's king goes to the corner, back where it came from.
Wow, what a game again.
What a game. Miracle save by Levon Aronian. Yeah, I mean, this one is gone now for Wei Yi. Nothing else to do but take the draw.
I mean, I think there's a good lesson to be learnt there. Even though Wei Yi's pawn move was probably very good, it just wasn't a very good practical choice. And you've got to, sometimes take the practical human choice.
And look at Levon Aronian shaking his head. I guess he got a little lucky in this game 3, but it is a draw. That means they are still tied. One more game to play.